Okay, so while all this commotion is going on, I thought I'd say a few words which would then serve as a segue into our final panel discussion. While all of us have been at this meeting, simultaneously, our users committee has been meeting. They started the day before the GSM started, and they actually met in the mornings before we started on 2 of the days. And so one of the discussion items at the users committee was that we wanted to start increasing the cross-section between the community and the members of the users committee again. Janelle Walsh, unfortunately, she needed to leave before the end of the conference, is the chair, and we'll be sending out information about how you can connect with them in the near future. Next slide. If you want to figure out who is on the committee, in particular those from your partner country, you can go to the website and go into About, and under Governance, you will find the current members of the users committee. So with that, I'll invite the people on the panel up to the stage. Next slide. We actually have a few of the members of the users committee on this panel. Oops. Oh. Yeah, there's a slide with the names of the people on the committee. Oh, okay. Well, we had a list of the names of the people on the panel. But the idea behind this panel discussion is just to give us all a chance to step back. We've seen an enormous range of science instrumentation throughout the 4 days of the meeting. A lot of time has passed since we've been able to see each other and connect like this. Virtually, it's just not the same when we're together in person. And so the idea behind the panel discussion is that we're going to reflect collectively on the results that we've been seeing over the past 4 days and think about together what lies ahead for us in the future. So with that, let's go ahead and have the panelists introduce themselves first.
Jennifer Latz, Gemini Director.
Victoria Reinaldi, representative of Argentina in the users community.
Nareha from Korea Astronomy Science and Space Science Institute, representing Kasi and Korea, and also the Gemini board.
I'm Chao Gonçalves from the Valongo Observatory at the Federal University in Rio, and I'm the Brazilian representative on the users committee, and actually this is my last year in the committee.
That's convenient. This is my first year on the user committee. I'm Matt Taylor, assistant professor at University of Calgary and former Gemini fellow, and yeah, I represent Canada on the UCG.
I think I only need one of these. I'm Pat McCarthy, the Noir Lab director.
Okay, I'll kick it off here. I just want to say thank you to all of our presenters and all of our speakers. I'm just blown away by the quality of the science, the quality of the talks, especially from our young people, and the breadth. We've gone from, near Earth asteroids to our solar system, to exoplanets, to, distant galaxies, and kind of everything in between. So it just really highlights that you all have been busy while we've been trying to hold this meeting. So thank you for continuing your work. My sort of high level thoughts from kind of reflecting on this meeting and what it's taken to get here is really, I see that the themes that I've been seeing are about connections and partnerships. So it's been fantastic to have this meeting in person. It's been fantastic to be able to have people call in virtually. Last year, we really wanted to have this meeting here, but at the end, we decided it would be great to have a virtual meeting. And that brought in a really broad cross-section of our partnership. So, looking at the observatory, of course, we've got Gemini North and South working together. We're now part of Navarre Lab, connecting with other facilities, including the upcoming Rubin Observatory. We've got this strong international partnership, and I think playing to those strengths and building on our partnerships is going to be really crucial for deciding what's next for the observatory. And I'm hoping this panel will say a little bit about what they need and what they are looking forward to going forward. And then the other thing that really struck me was just how Gemini is staying vital, staying very, exciting scientifically by connecting with other facilities. And we saw this over and over again. Gemini complementing Gaia data, Gemini working together with Hubble and now James Webb, Gemini following up LIGO sources, Gemini collaborating with folks from ESO VLT. And I think that really speaks to a broad view of the science that is capable, that Gemini is capable, and how vital it is in the broader landscape. So we, as I said at the beginning, we have a lot coming in the next couple of years, but I think it's time to start looking a little bit further ahead in terms of what do we want for Gemini Observatory, in terms of, what should be the observational capabilities 10 years from now? And how do we do that together as a partnership where we have such a diverse range of science, such a strong and diverse partnership with many different thoughts about what we should be doing and how we should be doing that science. So with that, I would really like to hear from everyone on the panel about their thoughts and reflections on the conference.
Do you mind if I quit my mask? I don't know how to use it to speak in Spanish, imagine in English. Well, first, I want to thank the organizers for making this great meeting, and to the observatory too, because they have invited me, and I'm very glad to be here. Well, I have to say that the participation of Gemini in Argentina has changed the way of thinking and doing science. And well, the access to an 8-meter telescope changed the entire mind of an entire generation of Argentinian astronomers. So our participation here is really important. I'm thinking about that. I'm coming back with few ideas, but the one that rules them all is that it is mandatory to enlarge the users community. And I feel that it's rather easy or straightforward to do that. First, we need to maintain and improve the exchange with the observatory and between partners too, of course. Well, making joint proposals or the visitor programs are excellent examples to do that. Second, we need to offer courses so people can manage the data in a safely and efficient and fast process. So we need dragons. I will make it a tattoo. In dragons we trust, I will say. And third, we need to promote the participation of young researchers, young students, or grad students, because these are very, very nice meeting they can participate. It is a very warm and friendly meeting for the students and young researchers. So, well, these points apply to every country, I think, but they are especially important for Argentina right now because we have, unfortunately, lost our almost 30% we lost of our time in Gemini, and we really want to recover it and even enlarge it. So the point here is we need to continue making contact with you, with Gemini, with all the partners, because we need to I insist in recover our time and enlarge our participation in Gemini, because we have everything to do that. I'm convinced of that. We have a very promising generation of observational astronomers. I mean, we have a strong national office. I'm very proud of my national office. They are very efficient, and I will repeat it once and again and again. And the most important for us and for every partner, I think we have 20 years. I take my notes. We have 20 years of making Argentinian science growing up with Gemini, and we have. During these 20 years, we have put our country in the first level with Gemini. So I will insist in making contact and continue growing together.
Okay, thank you for the good comment. And personally, first, so I'm very happy and relieved to see this meeting come to a very successful closure, because this meeting has been actually in a sort of pipeline for 4 years almost. And actually the contract to use this room with the hotel has been signed almost 3 years ago. So I'm very happy. And then also thank you all to make this meeting a very big success. And as you have seen for the last 4 days, I'm very happy to see the many young Korean participants to make give you very nice science result. Well, unlike Argentina, we don't have a past 20 years of Gemini experience growing up science for the past 20 years, but we are more than happy to look forward for the future more than 20 years of doing science with you all, making this great partnership even more great. And being in a partnership, as a partner, it's important to do a great science as each partner, but the partnership itself should mean a little bit more than that, much more than that. And then making a scientific synergy as a partnership, I think we should work toward and paying much more attention than we used to be. And so we had a brief discussion before we coming to this panel discussion. And then we are more than happy to have any useful input from the audience and the users to make how to make inter-partner collaborations more, how we can promote, encourage between partners, joint proposal, for example, research collaboration, and then so Gemini partnership wide, how we can make our science collaborations more productive and do more great science. So we are happy to take any good suggestions from you. Okay, thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. And again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of the UCG for the last few years. Was a great experience, was a great learning experience to see how the inner workings of an observatory happens, especially with Gemini. So it was great. And thank you for allowing me to make some closing comments here on the conference itself, which I think was very interesting. And it was, again, illuminating to see how the community has been using the telescope in recent years, and to see the amazing science that's coming out of it. Of course, I'm more than a little biased towards extragalactic astronomy, just because that's my field and galaxies in general. But it was great to see how everything worked from the beginning of the conference, from exoplanets and stars all the way to galaxies and cosmology, and to see how people were using the instruments in very different ways in their own science. So we saw today some of the work with Zorro, for example, to look at individual stars from at the LMC, which was very exciting. It was very cool data. We saw people working on metal poor stars and making use of graces, and now there's ghosts coming up. So all of the work on high resolution spectroscopy, it was very interesting. And to highlight, of course, some of the work being done by my Brazilian colleague, colleagues. We had an invited talk from Delisa Gonçalves. She was discussing her work on symbiotic stars. Also, Bruno Diaz was talking about his work on stellar populations in nearby galaxies. Bruno is currently a researcher in Chile, but he also collaborates a lot, and that's a big project in collaboration with many people in Brazil, Leandro Kerber, Beatriz Barbui, and Francisco Maia, and others. So it was, on one hand, it was very interesting to see the very creative use that people are making of instruments like Zorro and Maroon X, some instruments I'm definitely not familiar with because they're very much outside my field. But at the same time, we did saw a lot of GMOS science coming out of here, and GMOS is, I think it's still a great instrument, although it has been going on for quite a few years now. Both GMOS North and GMOS South, they remain very relevant, and I think this is one of the big conclusions that we can take out of this conference, is how GMOS is still very much a big chunk of Gemini science in general. And I would like to emphasize that in our case, being from Brazil, of course doesn't have as much access to 8-meter and 10-meter class telescopes as the US maybe. So Gemini for us is a huge part of our observational capabilities in general. And having something like GMOS, and of course also the infrared instruments as well, which are in heavy use by our community, all of that, I think it emphasizes that since this is the main big telescope that we have access to, having something that's so flexible, it's really conducive to a lot of the different scientific goals that we have in Brazil. So it's great to see it moving forward. And I think this conference has proven that this is still very much the case, not only for Brazil, but we saw a lot of incredible science coming out of clusters. We saw Go Green, we saw Mabelius's talk, we saw a lot of people using GMOS for very different cases, and very highly relevant and high impact science as well. And moving forward, I think there's a lot that has been discussed on the ECG as well, on this strategy to engage the community. So I think one of the main strong points that we can have trying to bring in more people is that there are a lot of very exciting new instruments coming online. There's Ghost, there's Scorpio, of course, which is very interesting. Pretty soon we'll have Germos as well, which is an incredible instrument that I'm very excited about. So I think that's a great way to bring in new researchers, and so that we have new opportunities to use Gemini in exciting and innovative ways, while at the same time not losing track of GMOS and something that's versatile as it is. And I think just to close off on my comments on the I'm sorry, on the aspect of collaborations, I think there's a lot that can be done. I really like the joint proposal strategy that Gemini has, because it, on one hand, it allows us, of course, to do more science, because we have let's say a limited amount of time that we can apply for in Brazil. But I think the joint proposal allows us not only to do a little more ambitious science and have more ambitious projects, but at the same time, it serves as this tool and opportunity that we have to connect with researchers from the US, from Argentina. I have a lot of collaborations with Argentinian astronomers now, and hopefully more interaction with Korea in the near future. So that actually it encourages people in Brazil, and especially the smaller communities, to interact with people from other countries and other partners, so that we can do very interesting science together. I think that's a very positive aspect of Gemini. So that's it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the upcoming instruments are gonna do. It was very exciting to see all of them being presented here, and I certainly look forward to using a lot of Gemini in the future as well. So thank you.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, so first of all, I want to obviously repeat the gratitude for putting on the this great meeting, inviting me and allowing me to serve on the ECG. This is a great opportunity to get a new perspective on Gemini, different from the one that I had before. I was asked to be on this panel nominally to give perspective from the Canadian community, and to be honest, I'm not sure how comfortable I feel speaking for the country as a whole, at least not quite yet. So instead, I'm going to speak from my own personal perspective. And that perspective is of a former Gemini fellow who failed in the job market the year before coming to Gemini. And so coming there was a really special experience, and Gemini gave me absolutely every opportunity to achieve success into my next postdoc and then into the position I have now. And they showed a keen interest in my success. And I'm not the sort of person to ever forget a favor. And so I showed a keen interest in Gemini's success. And one thing I'm taking out of this meeting is that that interest is very satisfied. Gemini is in a good place, and I think at least in the near and medium term, it is absolutely heading in the right direction. I'm blown away by the diversity, not of just the science, but of the community, from the partner countries, from students to postdocs to senior faculty. The diversity of people, the diversity of science is really something that is unique to Gemini, and it really warms my heart to see that happening, and to see that the strategy in general is really to play to Gemini's strengths as a uniquely nimble and flexible observatory. And I think if that focus is maintained, then the future is bright. One other, I guess, reflection that I've had personally is this has been my first opportunity to really speak in detail with members from the other partner countries and start to understand their perspectives. You know, I'm coming from Canada, and I'm gonna lump the United States in there as well as one of the nominally larger partners. And you know, we have our own challenges, we have our own concerns, but the small partners have their own unique set of challenges and concerns that are fundamentally different than those from the larger partners. And I think it behooves us from North America in particular to maybe take our North American hats off and try to put on the hats from the other partners to understand their perspective and to better understand their challenges and their concerns. Because I think if that cross communication happens and we have a better understanding of those perspectives, then that cross-pollination and the joint proposals and everything will just naturally flow from that. So I think just to close up, that's something I'm going to be thinking very carefully about on my way home, about how to promote that and how to address that. And I suggest the rest of you from particular North America do as well.
Thank you, Matthew. That was really well said. A great message. Just a few thoughts here before we open things up. Just to echo what Jen said, I'm really impressed with the depth and the breadth of the science we saw this week. I was impressed at how many people are doing very broad science programs, but Gemini provided the key data they need to get their science done. That was really quite impressive. I learned that instruments that I thought were niche, like IGRINs and the speckle cameras, are actually very broad in their science scope. That was really impressive over and over. Instruments we might think of as old, like GMOS and GNIRS, are still vital. That doesn't mean they'll last forever, but they're still providing a lot of great science for people. One of the things, though, that I thought was most telling was the remark by Stefan from Max Planck, who said, coming to Gemini, he encountered that the group was warm, friendly, and welcoming. That was his experience in observing with Gemini. I think that speaks to the excellence and the dedication of our staff. We often think about the instruments and the software, but it's the staff who really make the experience work. And we've seen that this week. all that they've given us and all that they give the user community. And as you just described, the science that they do as well, and how important that is to them. So I think as we go forward, it's really important to make sure that we hold on to that Gemini culture. It's special. If we lose it, it's very hard to get it back. And it's important that we hold on to the identity of Gemini is an international partnership, because it's vital to all of us, as Matthew said, that we recognize and we sit in each other's seats or stand in each other's shoes periodically and think about what Gemini means to them. We have a new wave of instruments coming thanks to the hard work of our partners here in Korea, Canada, and elsewhere. It's going to be a really exciting decade as those new capabilities come online. But we've learned it takes about 10 years from concept to delivery for an instrument. So we should start thinking, what do we want in the 2030s, in the era when web will be mature, where the ELTs will start to come online? And we should think, what's the right set of adaptive optics capabilities that we want that'll be long lasting, because we don't want to continually rebuild, and what's the right set of instruments? And that information has to come from you, the user community, and the representatives from the various partners, because ultimately Gemini is and must be responsive to the community on all scales, whether that means you've got to have something observed tomorrow night because it's a transient, or you need an instrument or a capability in 10 years. Ultimately, our job is to respond to the aspirations and the need of the user community. With that, I'm happy to turn it back to Jen and then open the floor to discussion within the panel and input and comments from the floor.
Thanks, Pat. I think I would just like to open up to anybody who wants to comment on anything said here. But in particular, I'd like maybe a bit of a forward look. You know, what do you want to see happen next? What should we be aiming towards, either in terms of science, instrumentation, partnership in the next decade? Don't be shy.
To comment, please come up to the mics. Don't be shy.
Zach is never shy. Come on up. Zach.
Hey, great discussion. So I actually just want to turn the question around on Pat and pose the question directly to the six of you up here about what instruments we want to see, because we have a unique opportunity right now with JWST showing off its first light images and the first science images, and the public, especially in the US, you know, saying, okay, astronomy is really cool, and we don't think $10 billion on a telescope is a big investment. We need more. So thinking ahead to, you know, the next generation, maybe even if it's just, you know, upgrading GMOS as it is an aging instrument, and, you know, upgrading either Altair significantly beyond like even GNO. So I was just wondering, like, what instruments you all would like to see, because like for me, I really want speckled cameras, and we already have those. So just wondering what you all think.
Maybe I'll take a stab at that. For me, we've just completed our 5-year plan and have been trying to map out what what we should be looking at in terms of the next generation. And there are two ideas on the table really at this point that would be great to get community input and feedback on. The first is the idea of bringing an adaptive secondary to one or maybe both telescopes. And we started doing the feasibility study. You saw Paul's great talk there. The next step would be to do conceptual design, but also to, broadly understand what the science gains of that would be, particularly with the near-term updates in adaptive optics at Gemini North and South. The other, as Thiago alluded to, is start thinking about our optical workhorse capabilities. GMOS North and South still dominate the proposals, both telescopes, but they're aging. And so we need to understand if that is a capability we still want going forward, whether that should be simply updating GMOS, or if we want something that's, next generation, has something that's a little bit different, maybe complementary to Scorpio. And again, the science cases and thinking forward to what the landscape looks like in 2030 with ELTs coming online, what is the niche there for Gemini? How do we, are we going to continue to be the rapid response agile observatory? And so that might aim for a somewhat different kind of science case or science requirements for that next instrument, or do we want something a little bit different? So I would love to hear from GMOS users in particular. What do you want? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll second that and give a proposal, which is adaptive secondary with GMOX behind it, so you can do rapid TOOs with MOS. And EMCCDs to lower the noise. Basically just squeeze everything out of the hardware that you can. We can't change the mirror, but we can change about everything else.
I'll take a stab at that, and I'll really support the second one, the whatever type of upgrade you could do to GMOS, just because, as I said, speaking on behalf of the Brazilian community, this is something that it's one big telescope that we have access to, and GMOS acts as something that really works for a lot of people in Brazil. So an upgraded GMOS would be great. I think, especially with if we think about the upcoming instruments, there's a lot of in the next decade or so, there are going to be a lot of very wide field surveys. Of course, Rubin, we heard a lot about it, and then there's going to be Euclid and Roman. So follow up of those fields with the high multiplex, just optical multi-object spectrograph, and would be incredible and it would be useful to a lot of people in the community. And as we said in the UCG, I think Scorpio is a great instrument. I'm really looking forward to applying for time with it, but it doesn't have the multiplex capabilities that MOS, the GMOS has. So an upgraded GMOS, I think, would serve a big chunk of the user community of Gemini. So I would really put my money on that if I could.
You're here, and if I could build on what Brian said, we can't make the primary mirror any bigger, but we can make the images smaller. And that's actually worth a lot too. And if we can have a standing adaptive secondary mirror that you just don't even think about it anymore, it's always making the images a factor or two sharper. You'll just come to appreciate that, and it's just part of the landscape. And that, and coupled to the next generation optical spectrograph, would be a really powerful combination.
I just want to push on the adaptive secondary some more. I totally agree with the plan. And one other benefit that it has is it really makes Gemini an IR optimized telescope, because especially if you use adaptive optics, it's just has much more sensitivity without having the additional thermal background. And just baselining an adaptive secondary that can provide some good correction in the optical as well as the infrared, I think will definitely replenish the capability of the observatory. And the other thing to consider is, in the era of the ELTs, if we look at how things have progressed when 8 to 10 meter class telescopes showed up and how they impacted sort of the 4 to 6 meter class telescopes, as they moved more towards survey type science, whereas the larger telescopes focused on individual objects, because that was kind of the low hanging fruit. So that's something else to consider, and perhaps the upgrade to GMOS to make it much more highly multiplex, better image quality, maybe additional spectroscopic modes that allow for higher spectral resolution, because you're basically optimizing the observatory to get more flux into a slit. Might be a beneficial direction to go. Here.
Hi, Bruno Diaz. Thiago was mentioning that I'm broadly using GMOS here for three national projects, including Argentina, Brazil, and Chile. So my 2 cents here, I would say, on the top of everyone else points here, is that this is the workhorse, right, of any telescope. So any telescope should have this. So for example, Force 2 at VLT is also aging. So they're planning an upgrade now, but they have two, right? So they have the Force 1 and Force 2, so they keep going to observations there. So I think that if you want to do an upgrade of GMOS, you have to stop operations with GMOS. So that we have to think about that and how this will impact the science. But thinking about, is it worth it to do this, even if you have like Force 2 for like international community or not? I think that's a matter of access, right? So because we have a guaranteed time for this community. So is this community using really GMOS? I think that the answer is the right answer. We have this thing. So I think it's worth it to go for an upgrade, but maybe thinking about like really upgrade, like everything, like thinking about new capabilities and rethink about the needs from the community. If I may add another point on the top of this, since I'm here, is from the tax, because I mentioned that I'm managing like 3 tax there. So when you apply for time, you have to apply actually for 3 communities and 3 evaluations, and sometimes you have actually completely different answers from this tax. So I don't know, sometimes you get first place in one community and then like very criticized in another community. So this is something like difficult to manage. I do not have a proposal how to change it, but I mean, this is a point that I want to raise here for discussion maybe, because I don't know how the international tech manage that when it comes to handle, but maybe when you have this type of joint proposals, try to have an international tech, I don't know, something like glue together and something more smooth procedure, because I think that the idea is collaboration, right? So if you have like different countries here, it's not that each community has its own science, but can collaborate as well. So as like Matt said, okay, so think about the necessities of other communities as well. I think that scientifically you gain a lot with collaborate. But that's okay.
Thanks. Those were really great points. Anybody want to comment on those or have other topics? Yes, please come.
So I'm completely external, of course, but I wonder if a key ingredient couldn't be in the future also really to implement a 15% of guaranteed time observations, because there will be a lot of instrument builders who probably run out of telescopes where to put their things. Everything will concentrate on the ELTs. So you might actually want to draw groups in that Gemini becomes an attractive place to think about. And a similar thought, maybe if you think about the ELTs, they come online, everybody gets 3 hours of telescope time for the next 10 years. Maybe one should think about that the smaller telescopes can be the place where you can implement long, big projects, 100 hours, 200 hours, which you'll never get on an ELT in the first 10 years, so to say.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. Yeah, we didn't talk a whole lot about our visiting instrument program, but that's been wildly successful for bringing external teams, external instruments in exchange for telescope time. And, just looking ahead at the budget and what some, if we want to have ambitious projects, I think collaborations that bring in a partnership, much in the way that the GERMOS and GNEO project is being funded, is going to be the path forward for the next generation of instruments. But yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let's also make sure that, is anyone online with questions? Are you watching, Julia? Okay, great.
So I'm gonna just bypass because so I think everyone in this room noticed a lot of talks are based on the visiting instrument, data from the visiting instrument, Alopecacholo, Maroon X, and iGrains. The problem is we don't have science port to host like extra visiting instrument anymore. And now like we're gonna have like Maroon X becoming facility instrument, and in the south and north, we are all expecting like the big facilities, right? Like Gemini South, we're gonna have Scorpio, and Ghost will be used a lot. So I don't know how much time those visiting instruments will be allocated. So as a development group person, I wish we can have like more science for like extreme change for those front end design, but I don't know if it's possible, but so something to think about, or more creative way to like feed the like maybe fiber, the extra port to use the fiber. Like Maronex can be installed more often, not just the block schedule, because Maronex will be like successful for like next 15, 20 years. But if it has to compete with other facilities, then I don't know, we'll lose a lot of users as well. So that's, yeah, my 2 cents.
Thanks, all very good points. We have to think about the sustainability and long-term viability of the instrument program.
Now for something completely different, I have a crazy question about partnership. So 22 years ago, the family was established. The partnership included the UK and Australia, who later preferred to leave the partnership. And we were very fortunate to have Korea, not only to replace them, but to bring something completely new. And I would agree with Narae when he says that Korea made Gemini even better. So looking at the portraits that we have today, is there anyone missing? Is there anyone else you would like to see joining us? Is there a country you're having in mind that you think has a lot to contribute and could grow a lot joining Gemini that you would like to see sitting next to you?
India. I think India is doing fantastic things these days. I think with Astrosat, the great science that's coming from UVIT, I think adding the UV profile and having the UVAR kind of in the full partnership would be just outstanding.
And it's a TMT partner.
Who's going to make the phone call? I think it's an interesting suggestion.
Should we conclude? I know it's pretty late and we've got other things to do here. Does anybody want to have a final word? Janice.
Let's just give our fantastic panelists a round of applause.
So please don't disappear just yet. We have a few thank yous, but we'll keep it really brief.
Yeah, festivities. Can we have the lights turned on completely so we gradually wake up for our last round of refreshments as well? And just because we're disbanding the panel doesn't mean that these discussions shouldn't continue. Of course, this is just the seeds for more discussion during the final break and hopefully in the coming months.
So we have a lot of thank yous because this meeting was a tremendous amount of work. And we had multiple tries at getting it done. So again, I'm just so pleased that we were able to be here in person. I really want to thank everyone for attending. But of course, behind the scenes for 4 years, we've been working on this conference. I really want to thank Nare for suggesting this conference and for continuing to persevere to have the conference going forward. It's been fabulous, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this. Okay.
Well, want to check that out. Okay. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who braved the trek. It was quite a challenge to get here, and there was a lot of anxiety, but most of us are here. Encourage you to be safe, right? As we go back home, we still have plenty of tests outside. So please give yourselves a round of applause. And also, our youngest attendee. We are indeed seeding the future astronomers for Gemini. That's Jian's son, yes? Is he here? Okay, and then, Brett? Thank you to everybody who participated online. There's still a few people online, even though it's very late where they are. And they deserve a special shout out. Thank you. If you want to unmute your video, we can clap for you. It really takes a village, as Jen was saying, to organize this kind of conference. And we will certainly forget people who have contributed through the full scale of whatever distribution function you want to think of this as. If you have contributed to this meeting as an organizer for preparation, please stand up. And this is not just the LOC. I know many of you, including chairs, virtual chairs, in-person chairs, people who have taken pictures, please stand up so we can recognize you. Come on, don't be shy.
LLC, SLC.
LOC.
So I'd like to start with the LOC. First of all, I'd like to thank Hui Kim, who is the co-chair of the LOC, and Ann Jordan, who also was co-chair and served as our administrative support. Please come up. Please come up. We have presents. I also want to thank oh yes, so we have special presents flown all the way from Hilo, from Big Island Candies. If Ji Yeon-sol could also come up, she's a key member of the local organizing committee, of course, our support from Cassie and the Korea Gemini office.
She did a lot of heavy lifting on Kasi's side.
And we also have a gift for Nara Huang, who is the brains behind the whole thing.
Well, my job was actually to make sure everybody in LLC do their job, but every member of the LLC was perfect and excellent. So there was very little for me to left to take care of anything. So I'm not sure I'm deserved for this.
Okay, other members of the committee. So Chung Yang, are you here? Yes, please come. Jocelyn Ferrara, who gave a fantastic talk on diversity and equity and inclusion. Yijin Kim.
Eugene is sitting outside.
Yeah. Okay.
Songchar took this photo.
Venu Kalarai, who I believe is online, but gave a fantastic talk. And we'll have to ship his, send it back to Chile with someone. Jong Un Hyo, are you here? Please come up. Ki Young Oh.
Oh, she
She.
left
Okay.
already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jerry Brower, our fearless tech support. Thank you, Jerry. I think I got all the names. Did I forget anyone, Janice? No. Okay. Nara, would you like to say some final words?
Yeah, thank you all. I think you guys, of course, the LLC members did a hell of a job. And of course, we have to remember that there are many excellent SLC members, including our SLC chair, Elliot, who magically didn't forget to make me an invited speaker even after 3 years. So let's thank our SLC members and all of you, and to make a travel here and also attending this meeting virtually. So you guys made this meeting a big success. Thank you. And let's also thank our excellent hotel staff who made our coffee break time a great joy. I never had this kind of excellent tea and coffee service wandering around the world attending meeting. Thank you. 호텔 스태프분들이 계신지 잘 모르겠지만 감사드립니다. 여러분들 고생하신 덕분에 편하게 잘 미팅하고 갑니다. 감사합니다.
Okay, with that, we are done. Please enjoy the rest of the coffee, and hopefully many of you will get to spend the weekend seeing the sights. Thanks again.
Thank you.